Welcome, my name is Anat Baniel. You'll be seeing a demonstration of the Anat Baniel method of Feldenkrais with children. It is a compilation of 5 lessons out of a total of 14 which I have given to a boy by the name of Carter. Carter was 6 years old when he came to us first, and he's diagnosed with cerebral palsy. He was very premature, and we worked with him over a period of 3.5 months. Thank you. If you want to find more information about the Anat Baniel method, you may log on to www.anatbanielmethod.com. This is Carter. This is his first lesson with me. He's 6 years old. Carter was born 4 months early. He was 1.5 pounds at birth. He had breathing and lung problems. At 6 days old, part of his intestine and gallbladder were removed. He had, the mother says, many surgeries, eye surgery for crossed eyes. When coming to me for the first time, he's considered legally blind. He had a hernia and blood transfusions, but had no orthopedic surgeries. Had severe behavioral problems when he was in the public schools, and they used to just strap him to a wheelchair. For the past month, he's been going to a conductive education school, and the woman in the white is his teacher and also my student Kinga, and she asked that he would be brought to me. He's very fearful of therapy, and when they tried to put him with a walker to walk, he seemed lost in space and unable to manage it. And he, at this time, even though you don't see it, has some ability to crawl. You can see how he's all bent over, does not know how to carry himself well against gravity. Here sitting, he balances himself, but he's actually not using his lower back to sit up. And the mother here, you see he is fearful. He doesn't want her to leave him. He's afraid, and I encourage her to stay very close to him, and I encourage Kinga to join because he feels safe with Kinga. Kinga took him out of the wheelchair and lets him be on the floor and move, and that already has been wonderful for him. Here I start touching him again. The touch seems very innocent and not like very much, but I'm both feeling what he does with the shifting of weight, and when I move him backwards, whether he has any inclination to use his lower back, which he does not at this point. So I'm not going to try and force it. I'm just sort of exploring to see how the child organizes himself. I see him as a whole person that somehow figured out a way to be and try and make things happen for himself. But you see the lower back is completely rigid. It's not differentiated and integrated into his image of self and into the movement. So it just is there because it's attached, but he's not using it. When I try to take him back, he's resisting. He's I think both doesn't know how to do it very well, but he's also scared. So I take the time. I want to make sure he feels safe, and I asked Kinga to be very close to him so he would feel as safe as possible at that moment. If he's not safe, he's not able to learn. As you can see, when I touch him, I move the legs. I move them slowly and in a way where he is very encouraged, even though not through words, to start feeling himself. I'm going to be putting a roller under his knees, and I want him to know what it is so he's not frightened. For Carter, therapy was not a successful experience. And here you can see the legs are not responding to gravity as they should. A healthy person, when you put a roller under their knees, the knees will just bend and the weight of the legs will carry them down. Here I'm working on his pelvis, gently starting to move it, because I know that in order for the legs to reduce their spasticity, the back, lower back spine need to be organized in relation to the legs so that the legs can or the brain will let go of the excitation of those muscles. The legs themselves will not stop being spastic as long as the powerful muscles of the pelvis and back will not be part of his organization being in the gravitational field in an upright position. And as you can see, within seconds, the hip joint has become quite free, and I'm showing it to Kinga and I'm explaining it to her. I'm also now putting the foot on the roller, using the roller as a floor, as a moving floor. And first when I do it, he gets the leg spastic again, because that's what he's used to doing. But then again, he's able to let go of it. And I think it's remarkable to notice the speed at which changes are initiated by the system, how it self-organizes itself differently with gentle but relevant information done in a way that the child can absorb it, because it's done so gently and so slowly that they can follow it and feel what's happening. Here, intentionally, I'm trying to get his legs stiff again and spastic again, and I'm telling it to him, and then I tell him to stop, and he stops. Here, I'm continuing the same configuration that I've started with him, but from the upper part, from the shoulder and the arm. You see, when I pull on the arm, initially there is no movement in the back and in the lower back. That means from his point of view, however he learned to use his arm and however he learned to be in the gravitational field, the lower back has nothing to do with the arm. But in reality, in order to be able to control the arm and the lower back and the whole back and the spine, but definitely the lower back, is an essential ingredient. So I just gently again get him to feel and do. I'm taking the arm a little up and a little down. I do all kinds of different little movements. I vary a lot to give him and his system an opportunity to feel and have a chance to reorganize itself. The very fundamental part of this work, my work and my understanding of the work, is that we cannot impose anything on another human being, not just because it's maybe a nice thing to say, but simply because it's not possible. I cannot make a child lift an arm, I cannot make a child do anything, but I can move the child in ways and in sequences, and so that the child starts feeling themselves in new ways and starts employing themselves in new ways, which I believe is what happens with the healthy babies with no problems. They also learn how to employ themselves, but they do their own experimentation and their own variations on themselves, and they definitely do it gently and within the realm of the strength they can handle. Look here, when I'm pulling on the leg, how beautifully the force is traveling already through the spine, and here I'm having him feel how he can put weight on the leg and utilize the power of the lower leg to put pressure on the foot. He's not, obviously, has never done that before in his life. And I'm pointing here to Kinga to see how the right foot is so much more organized or less spastic now than the left one, just within not too many minutes into the lesson. I mean, the whole lesson normally with a child is no longer than 45 minutes, and very often the first time would not be more than 30-35 minutes. And as you can see, by this time the child feels quite safe with me, because he's felt my hands for anywhere between half an hour to 45 minutes and knows that my hands are friendly and I'm not going to hurt him or do anything that he's not ready to do and absorb. And you'll see, look how beautifully he already sits. Look how taller he is, how much more upright he is. I have not exercised his uprightness. Kinga sees it and she's all excited. Look, the head sits, even though because of his vision, he tends to lower the head and do peculiar things. But from the point of view of the back and the shoulders, he's able now to sit upright. And that's after one lesson and after 6 years of life. So I think it's important to see and what the child, and he was not considered intelligent, by the way, when he was brought to me, but I found him to be quite brilliant and very introspective, except he was confused. And the way that people have tried to help him with the best of intentions was he didn't know what to do with it. He wasn't able to utilize it, so he just became fearful. And here I'm accentuating the outcome and having him feel. that he's sitting tall and he can bend the head one way and another way on a tall spine rather than collapse when he moves his head and his eyes. This is Carter's 6th lesson. That means 5 lessons later, on April 18th, about a month later. He received the previous 3 lessons in the same week. Here the grandmother came to see the lesson because she saw so many changes in Carter. After his first lesson, she was in tears because Carter said it hurts for the first time. He was never able to express pain before. The grandmother also said that he's breathing and reading a book, he's opening up to life, he's expressing himself. So she really was more focusing on his emotional and personality changes rather than even the movement. The mother said that he's comfortable in looking, he's starting to see, he's responding to noise, and he's not using the glasses anymore. They all realize that he can see. Now, as you can see here, it's his 6th lesson, and sitting up is already a given. So I'm just working on taking it to the next level. I'm able to move him back and forth. The pelvis can rock, reciprocate, without him risking losing his balance. So now I'm trying to get him to integrate that ability to being able to lean on his hand behind him. He has what it takes to do it, he just doesn't know it yet, because all his life he was curled forward and fearfully trying to balance himself and not fall while sitting. He obviously was set up before he was able to do it on his own well as a little baby. So here you see I have him half side sitting, trying to get him to feel that he can use the lower back and the hip joint in such a way, which he will shortly. See how beautifully the pelvis is moving, the harmony, the lack of spasticity right now throughout the spine and the hip. And the degree to which the child surrenders to the work and actually loves it. After his first lesson, he didn't understand that Anat is my name, so he kept asking to be brought back to do an Anat. So that we all found it quite charming, but by this time he knows that Anat is me, the person, and not the thing or his experience. Here, look how beautifully he's lying on the floor. He's surrendering to gravity very well, which is part of what a healthy nervous system that organizes movement well does, is that when we move, we do, and when we don't, we let go of all tensions. And children with cerebral palsy don't even know how to lie down well. They keep big parts of themselves contracted and held in air. Here I'm showing him quite a complex movement of how to use his leg in relation to the pelvis so that and the lower back, so he can actually bring himself up to sitting. Here it's quite new for him, but he's obviously able to do it. And here I'm able to even tilt his legs to the other side without him losing balance. That means he's already using the lower back, and he gets to lie back down on his belly this way. So that whatever mobility and freedom he gets, I immediately look to bring it into more mastery of movement action, organizing intention. And of course, for him, it's a wonderful feeling. He gets to feel himself as capable, which he is. Now here you see he hits with his left arm, and I do it too. And what you'll see in a minute is now he hits gently, so I hit gently too. The reason I'm pointing it out is that I believe that the changes are based on the child's perception of differences. That means the ability to make distinctions, the distinctions in feeling, distinction in sensation, in kinesthetic perceptions, in thought, and in emotion. And so anytime there's an opportunity for a child to make a distinction, to use their brains to make a distinction, perceive differences, I really jump into it. Here what I'm doing is I'm trying to help him come up to his knees, but not by pulling on the arms, which is the usual way with kids with spasticity and legs that tend to get spastic. People try to get them to pull on a walker and do what they call standing up, which for me is not really standing up, it's really hanging on to. And you see, he does not know at this second how to do that. He needs to use the power of the lower back and direct the motion, the head forward, so that he brings the weight over the thighs, and then he can balance. But he loves it, and the activity, he's laughing and he's enjoying and he's loving interacting with me. And here, this time he could do it. I take a little bit of the weight over, not a lot. I will not drag him. And here he's almost trying to stand on his foot, but I'm not interested. It's too soon. Now, here I'm doing with him a similar thing in a different position. That means getting the lower back to respond in relation to the movement of the legs. Here he gets to feel the roller again, so he doesn't get startled. And also I am engaging his eyes and letting him play with it and get him to feel the floor with the feet. One of the remarkable things about our brains is that we don't have to be in the position of the movement or the function we're trying to learn in order to learn it. We don't even have to be doing the function in order to learn it. So here, from my point of view, I'm helping Carter to learn to stand on his feet. But his weight is on the table, so he does not have the burden of it being upright. And you see, when he does the movement, he still knocks the knees together. When I do the movement for him, he does not knock the knees together anymore. But he gets very intense feeling off the feet, controlling a rolling floor, so to speak. And you will see, as he comes down, he's looking for the floor with his feet very clearly and carrying the weight. And of course, he's in a rush to do something, to go play actually with the toys. He's very intentional. His sister, I believe, was playing with the toys while he was in the lesson. So here he is going towards the toys. And you see still, because of the vision, he still brings his head very close towards the object he's looking for, but he's also partially doing it, I believe, out of habit. And now you see how he erects his spine and he sits tall, and he doesn't need to be asked to do that or helped. And here you get an opportunity to see how beautifully he gets himself up to standing. And here he's trying to come over to sit on the bicycle, but he doesn't know how to do it yet, but look how beautifully he stands up, looking to get some help. And with minor assistance on my part, he's able to sit on the tricycle, and his feet are flat on the floor, which is a big deal, of course, with children with cerebral palsy like him. And as their lower back gets integrated and works more properly, the heels do go down to the floor. That's been my experience over the past 20 years. And now from time to time they get off a little, but over time they get less and less off the floor. And look how beautifully he carries himself and finds the vertical. Can take the hands off and still find the. This is Carter's 9th lesson, a month later, and a total of 2 months since we started working together. And here I'm just showing how he's able to stand and walk and even free an arm at a time while he's standing, and look how his heels are down. The parents are reporting that Carter is doing incredibly well. He has conversations with people. He's walking with a walker. He's getting out of a chair on his own, or he's also walking, holding on to things. A vision therapist that has been working with him for quite a while came to test him. She was planning to teach him Braille, but now he's doing the tasks perfectly with his vision, so they don't need to do that anymore. Now look here how he's using the movement that he learned with me 3 lessons prior. At this point, I'm going to do a movement with him to bring further to the next level his ability to use his back and lower back, in this case in relation to the head and the arm. So I'm putting the head on top of the arm and actually inhibiting the movement between the head and the arm and the shoulder. That brings in more the movement in the center of the body, but connects it at the same time to the arm and the head. And here you can see in a few seconds, first he's pretty rigid, I mean he can do it, but the back moves a little bit like a board, And if you look at the shirt, you'll see that the ribs are starting to move. Where my hand is, you'll see in a second the ribs are starting to move because the shirt is starting to fold there. And then turning his head the other way, and of course you can see how the child is feeling very safe, and he just doesn't expect anything to be upsetting or hurtful, so that leaves a lot of freedom in terms of what we can do. And now you see I'm taking the same movement, but even further, by taking the arm behind his back, something he has not done on his own. So I'm making use of the opportunity to get him to feel his tush and his skin on his back. And he finds it absolutely hilarious. He's cracking up, which is part of what happens a lot with children. Then when they learn something new, they just become hilarious. They laugh and laugh, and I believe that's a very important part of healthy and efficient learning. And now you see, it's like I get him to hit his tush as if he has no say in it, but to feel the freedom in the wrist and the freedom in the fingers, and the degree to which the arm now is differentiated from the back and spine. Taking it up like that, it's hard to believe that these were spastic arms and a back that couldn't arch just a couple months before. And again, he finds the floor and he listens to himself beautifully. He's an incredibly intelligent child that was considered of limited intellectual capacities, which of course is such a joy for everyone to discover the person that he really is and can be. And look, now he can take the arm down and just simply stand. He's standing mostly on the left leg. The right leg is not as much in use, but that of course can and will change into the future. I'm showing him, making him feel, and showing the mother how he's using his lower back, and then I can press down on him and he doesn't collapse. And here is beautifully how he goes down. This is lesson number 12. 3 days later, on June 14th, and here's Carter coming in with his sister, and look at him going to the speed. Look at the speed at which he reaches up, comes up. Remember a few lessons ago he couldn't stand up on his knees. Look how beautifully he stands on both feet, both heels down. And here I'm getting him to feel that he can actually climb. I'm building a little structure here for him. Look how he's waiting and he understands what I'm doing. And I'm just rearranging it and for him to be able to do that. And look how he orients himself in relation to the objects to figure out how to do it. He puts this time this leg and he's up. Look, this is a child that 2 months earlier had hardly any say in his own body. And look, now he has a feeling how to push on the foot. This is why it's so valuable, and to bring himself up. So rather than trying to pull himself up by the arms, he now knows how to push himself from the bottom up, which is what we need to be able to do. And here I'm now taking him to the next level, so he can straighten the hip joint without lifting the pelvis off the bed, which is a lot of children with cerebral palsy. That's what they do. When you try to lift the knee like this, the whole pelvis comes off, and actually the hips go to the ceiling. And here, doing this movement to again connect the arm, the leg, the lower back, and the head. I'm asking him to lift the head, and eventually also, of course, to use the eyes and to look at the foot when he does that, which he has never done as an infant. He has never formed those connections and those relationships within his own body. So in order for this child to be able to walk, in order for this child to be able to read and do more things, some of those very basic relationships that are formed throughout infancy and babyhood are necessary to form, but he doesn't have to go back into being a baby. Those can form very quickly. Here already on his knee, standing on his knee, the tendency is for the two legs